Good morning. Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Wednesday, August the 20th, 2025. And of course, it is fight day. Nikita Zoo, Luzlim, is it Luzlim or Luzim? I think we'll call it Luzlim, is Amaili. On tonight, Michael Zarafa, Mikey Dahlman, Brock Jarvis, Sam Beck. I think I might have called him Steve Beck a few times. Apologies about that, Sam. But he's Sam Beck. And who else? Jesse Parr is on the card as well. And Ahmed Ritter, Bruno Torimo. So what I'm going to do is a little bit of quick on this day, but also then get into the preview of all the card, or the whole card. Not as many probably fireworks as we expected at the weigh-in yesterday, but still was eventful anyway. We'll get to that in a sec. But on this day, just the one thing for you today, and another polarising figure. Don King turns 94 today. Yes, born in 1931 in Cleveland, Ohio. Now, he's become a little bit of a meme over the years, a bit of a joke. He's been parodied, is that the word, parodied, in a few shows like The Simpsons, and probably Rocky V is the promoter, and that was, you can tell, was modelled after Don King. He's been played in the Ali movie by, what was his name? I think it was the guy that played the guy in Forrest Gump with the lisp. What was his name? Bubba, of course, that was his name, Bubba, with the Bubba Shrimp franchise they or the company they made afterwards, or Forrest made afterwards anyway. Well, anyway, we'll move on. But yeah, Don King, he was a major, or the major promoter back in the day. Bought us Ali Foreman. That was probably the biggest fight he was ever part of. But the promoted Larry Holmes, all the big heavyweights over the journey, but promoted Holmes Cooney, which is probably the biggest fight around that era as well, the heavyweight battle in 1982. But you name the heavyweights around the era, and the odds are that Don King promoted them. And of course, probably most famously with Mike Tyson, their love-hate relationship over the journey. And again, probably no coincidence that Mike Tyson ended up flat broke by dealing with Don King. And I'm pretty sure that it didn't end well with Don King, to the point where I think that he might have hit him or something. I can't remember anyway, or threatened him, whatever it was. But I don't think Mike Tyson is a fan of Don King, but he's still promoting to this day. He's got a fight in, October, I think it is, October, November. Michael Hunter, Kubrat Pulev for the WBA, whatever belt that is. I lose track of these days what belts are actually fighting for. But the WBA something belt. Is it the regular belt? Is it interim belt? I don't know. But they are supposed to be fighting in October. So, and he's still promoting Adrian Broner as well. So, happy birthday, Don King today. 94 and still going strong. All right, on to tonight's fights. And we had the weigh-in yesterday, and probably thankfully we didn't have any incidents. Michael Zarafa turned up apparently with about 30 seconds before the telecast started. Probably to be expected. I think maybe it was him making a bit of a point to no limit as well. Look, to put a bit of a bow on that, I'm not going to go on about it too long, because it was, I think it was probably the biggest beat up of all time in Australian boxing, to be honest. But apparently he was told not to come, but it was due to security measures about his brother or something. His brother Jason, of course, was banned last year for punching Tommy McCurry, and there was, I don't know, I think there was a bit of back and forth about that, or something about that. Anyway, I sort of switched off as soon as they started talking about it, to be honest, because it's an absolute nothing event. But of course, they ran with it and continued to talk about it all bloody day. And I'm a bit sick of it, to be honest. Let's just get on with the fights. But they did all weigh in on weight. There was no shenanigans, no pushing, shoving, no nothing really. It was just a standard old weigh-in, which is probably a little bit of a disappointment to some people out there watching after the events of the press conference. But I, for one, just like that type of weigh-in where there's no issues and we just get on with it. I did actually, there was a couple of, I think they had the, Peter Bedell and, what was her name, Eloise Sohi or whatever, as hosts. I got to say, to my new best mate, Peter Bedell, mate, I know you watch this show sometimes, very well done yesterday on the telecast. I thought you spoke really well and were well researched. I thought your opinions were very good, and more importantly, I really liked the fact that you didn't toe the company line and just roll out the usual spiel of, geez, how great they look, and this is a big night for them, and the opportunities and all that sort of stuff. I know you sort of did that in a roundabout way, but I really like the fact that you didn't sort of pull any punches talking about Nikita when you said he still had a long way to go and he had a lot of deficiencies he needed to work on, rather than just pump Nikita up, probably like a lot of other commentators would do. You actually told it the way it was, and I could tell that you've done your research, mate, so good stuff. And Eloise, whatever her name was too, she did a really good job as well in the absence of Megan Barnard. So I know I seem like I'm pumping the guys at No Limit up, but I was really impressed by the hosting duties. And I also saw Peter with his interview with Jay McAllister afterwards and reiterated a lot of what he said on TV as well. And Jay always gets some good answers out of the people he's interviewing, so good stuff. But onto the fight itself, or the fights tonight. We'll just go through the main fights. Look, one thing I will say off the bat here, guys, is that don't expect a night full of back and forth, 50-50 action and fight of the year candidates. I know I'm probably pouring cold water on this whole event just a little bit, but I'm just being honest. I'm not really enthused by any of these fights. I've got an interest, I suppose, in the Ritter Bruno Torimo fight, and I'll get to that one. But yeah, the other fights are pretty uninspiring. And just on that, I've seen on a lot of the social media pages, especially Main Event and No Limit, really scathing comments about the quality of the card and the quality of the opponents. And I suppose what it says is that boxing fans aren't stupid. You know, they can put out all those flashy promo reels and the little promo videos they put together, and the interviews and the highlights that they put onto the opponents, and all what happens in this scenario and that scenario type of things that they do. But end of the day, boxing fans will do what boxing fans do. They'll go to BoxRec first, which is what I always do, and then they go to probably the best invention I think I've ever seen, and that is YouTube. YouTube doesn't lie. Sometimes records lie, but YouTube doesn't. And you can see for yourself what we're dealing with. And yes, let's just say I wasn't overly impressed. Just let me take this. Sorry, I forgot to take it out before I did the video. But yeah, we'll start with the first fight, or the main fight of the card. Jazzy Parr and her Singapore opponent. I've got it written down there, but she's from Singapore. I've done a bit of research. Look, guys, this, I can't remember her name. Hang on. No, it's all right. I won't get my phone out. I've got my hands full. Don't expect too much out of this one. I think the girl from Singapore, look, I watched a few of her, I won't say I watched a few of her fights. I watched a few highlights from some of her fights. And look, I suppose you could say she's been taught okay, but geez, the girls she was beating up were just drastically overmatched. They really were. So I would have looked okay in the videos, but I'm just trying to, as I'm watching her, I'm picturing her in there with Jazzy, and I think this has got, I won't say mismatch written over it, but this is going to be pretty easy work for Jazzy Parr, I think. Who knows? This girl might surprise us. She's 8-0, which is good. It looks good on paper. But again, you know, if I'm being completely honest, I just think she's going to be probably go the way of a lot of the Thai girls and that sort of stuff. So, look, I hope I'm wrong. But just from what I've seen, I'd like to be a bit more optimistic about it. But I think this will be a very, very one-sided fight for Jazzy Parr, who should win. I'm not sure what the fights are over, actually. I probably should have checked that, shouldn't I? Sorry about that. Because my phone's not actually working at the moment as far as internet goes, so I can't even look at it now. I'm sorry. But whatever it is, it's going to be a pretty easy night for Jazzy Parr, just in my opinion. The next fight on the card, I think, is Ritter and Bruno Torimo. I haven't got the order there. I would assume that that's the case. Look, I commend Team Ritter for taking this fight, because I think it is a massive step up for him. Well, he's only had a handful of fights. Bruno Torimo, 35 fights. I just watched a few highlights of him yesterday as well, just to sort of refresh my memory, because I just remember him being a really tough, nuggety little fighter. who just is relentless. Ahmed Ritter has just looked a little bit shaky, in my opinion, against some of the other opponents he's fought who haven't really been, let's just say, at the top level as far as class goes. So, look, again, I commend Ahmed and his team for taking the fight, but I think this might be a jump too far. I really do. I think Ahmed Ritter is a very, very talented young fighter. I think he's got some really, really good skills and some, a lot of upside for the future. But I just think, in this instance, Bruno Tarimo's relentless style. He'll just be on Ritter all the time. He'll probably expose a few of the, I won't say deficiencies, but more the inexperience of Ahmed Ritter. And I can probably just see that him just sort of overwhelm Ritter as the fight goes on. I don't think he'll stop Ahmed Ritter, but I think he'll, the first couple of rounds might be even. Ahmed Ritter's natural ability and everything and youthfulness, I suppose, will give him some success. But I just think as the fight goes on, I just think Bruno Tarimo will get on top of him, and I think we'll win a decision. Look, it wouldn't surprise me if Ahmed Ritter wins. I mean, on the surface, this looks like a really risky proposition, but sometimes underneath, there's a reason why they accept the fight. But having said that, Ben Sava gave me a lot of confidence. But he looked very confident the other day, and I think I said looked quite surprised that Ahmed Ritter had taken this fight. So either way, I'm going to pick Bruno Tarimo in a points decision win over Ahmed Ritter. Who knows, maybe he could even get him out of there. I don't know. I'm just really concerned about the inexperience of Ahmed Ritter. Now, he might be a really good young prospect, and you might be calling out Harry Garside, and you might believe he's going to be a world champion. Who knows, he might. But I just think you've got to take the right fight at the right time, and I really don't think this is the right fight for Ahmed Ritter. Bruno Tarimo is not going to go anywhere. He's not going to stop Bruno Tarimo. He's just way too tough and hard and seasoned. And I just think that he's going to struggle with the pace that Bruno Tarimo puts on him and that real experience that Bruno Tarimo has. So I'm going to pick Bruno Tarimo, as I said, on points in this one. Look, the Brock Jarvis and Sam Beck fight, I really can't give a real educated opinion, I suppose, because I couldn't really find any real footage of Sam Beck. I went to YouTube. Actually, having said that, what I probably should have done is went to his Facebook page, and I'm sure there's some highlights of some fights and that on there. I do remember seeing him about 2-3 years ago, was it 4 years ago, on one of the undercards, but I can't remember too much about him. All I'm probably going to go by here is that if No Limit have picked him for Brock Jarvis on this card featuring Nikita Tszyu and Michael Zarafa, two potential opponents, and pay-per-view options, I suppose, down the track, I just have a feeling that there's no way Brock Jarvis is going to lose his fight. By all accounts, Sam's a good, solid fighter. Not a lot of experience, so he's only had a handful of fights as well. So, look, I expect Brock Jarvis to get over Sam. I'm probably going to say he probably stops him in sort of 5 or 6 rounds, I would think, and then set up potentially that Nikita fight, or even, I don't think it'll be Zarafa, but definitely maybe a Nikita Tszyu fight. So yeah, even though Sam Beck will be tough, I'm expecting Brock Jarvis to get over the top of him, and as I said, maybe stop him in 5 or 6 rounds. And look, it is a little bit of a guess, as I said, because I haven't really seen much of him, but I just don't think that No Limit are going to put in a fighter that's going to be a risk to Brock Jarvis, especially coming off the Jarvis, the Thurman fight, and with those other potential fights sort of down the track. So on to the 2 main event fights. Let's start with the co-main, Michael Zarafa, Mikey Dahlman. Look, I always probably seem like I get stuck in the mic a little bit, and this is not his fault, but I just think this is not going to last long. I know they've showed the knockout of Mikey Dahlman a few years back, that highlight reel knockout that was on TMZ, but just I've watched a few of his fights, and he's not a good fighter. I mean, I don't like to sort of rubbish fighters, but I'm just being honest. I would be surprised if this fight went 4 or 5 rounds. I think if Michael has aspirations to win world titles and all this sort of stuff, this is the type of guy who gets out of there in 3 or 4 rounds. probably in a similar way that he got Basir A out of there. The only difference is with this fight with Mikey Dolman. I don't think he's even equipped like Basir Assay, who got on his bike against Michael Darafa and didn't really engage. As soon as he did engage, he got knocked out. This is a little bit different. I don't think Mikey Dolman's actually got the ability to fight cautiously. He looks very limited, comes straight ahead. Look, his punches are telegraphed, his chin's in the air, he hasn't got real good defence, no real good, or not real good footwork. Yeah, and again, I don't want to rubbish the guy, but I'm just sort of stating it as I see it. And I think Michael Zarafa will win this in 3 or 4 rounds. If he actually goes out there with knockout on his mind, it'll be 3 or 4 rounds. If he decides to box and have a bit of fun out there, who knows, it could go a little bit longer. But if Michael Zarafa's switched on and ready to go, I'll say a 4th round knockout. One-sided too, by the way. And Nikita with Ismaili. Look, I watched to get a little bit of Ismaili again yesterday. One thing they haven't shown you, I mean, they have shown you or told you he's undefeated and all this sort of stuff. He's not undefeated. He actually got stopped in his last fight in one of those IBA tournament shows over in Europe, I think it was. A guy by the name of Sumbu, I think his name was. He got stopped with a body shot. When I say stopped, it wasn't like he got decked and didn't get up. He actually got hit and spun around in his corner and just, he took a standing 8 count. And then when I think it was the referee went to wave him on again, he just said, no, I'm not going to continue. So pretty much he quit from the body shot. All that aside, though, it doesn't really matter whether these guys have had a loss or not. It happens in boxing. But I suppose he's got an okay jab. No power whatsoever. Chin in the air. Look, this is a perfect fight for Nikita, by the way. I'll just state that. But Nikita should get this guy out of there in 5 or 6 rounds. And the only reason it lasts that long is because I got no doubt Ismaili will be on his bike and wanting no piece of Nikita, and Nikita will have to chase him around for those 5 or 6 rounds and eventually get to him. As soon as he slows down a little bit and Nikita can plant his feet and offload a little bit on him, this fight's over. I know they pumped him up a fair bit, but look, having said that, even though this guy's like just vastly overmatched and will get stopped, I've got no problem with the fight at all for him. Been out for a year, his first international fight. He's been in a lot of wars in all his fights, so I've got no dramas with having, let's just say, a little bit of a soft kill. But I suppose if you're paying $70, well, you probably expect more. But that's the reality of the card, guys, is that all fights, in my opinion, will be pretty one-sided. I know there's always a method behind the madness with what they do, and they're trying to set fights up for the future, and I get that, but yeah, try telling that to all the fans out there that pay the $70 in good faith. But as I said before, like, having looked at the comments online yesterday, I'd be surprised if this fight does good numbers. And I'm also really surprised in a couple of things is that Nikita was copping a fair bit of, let's just say, feedback online, which is something you just don't see from the zoos, and Tim gets it as well. And I just can't believe how sort of quick people have sort of turned on Tim and Nikita. I know Tim got stopped and wasn't as good as we thought he was and whatever. Nikita's been just, had the sword taken to him because he's a little bit quirky, and the comments about the placenta and the breast milk and all that sort of stuff, it's really disappointing to see the way a lot of fans have sort of turned on him. And surprisingly, on the flip side, a lot of them have starting to support Michael Zarafa a little bit more after what happened with the press conference the other day. So it's amazing how it all turns. But look, yeah, that's probably why I don't read a lot of social media comments, because there's some pretty ordinary human beings out there that have a lot to say and probably haven't done a lot themselves. But anyway, so that's the card for you guys. I wish I had sort of better news for you as far as the preview goes, but I'm sorry, I just don't see a night of competitive boxing. I think they'll be all pretty one-sided. There's always a fight that will surprise. I think if any of the fights is going to be competitive and a really good solid fight, will be the Ritter and Tarimo fight. But the others, I'm sorry, I just can't. I can't find a way to say, hey guys, pay the $70 because you're going to be in for a great night of fights. Just think they're all going to be pretty one-sided. But anyway. Right, a couple of things before I go. What else have we got? I had international news. The Matchroom Netflix special. Can't wait. I saw the preview of it yesterday. It's about Eddie Hearn and his dad Barry and the story of the company and the years. And because if you didn't know, Eddie didn't start the company. His dad Barry was a promoter for years and years and years, and he had the feud with Frank Warren, which is why they did the 5x5. But the preview looked really good. I didn't really know too much about Barry except that he was a legendary promoter over there in England. But it looks like a real character. They look like they have a real interesting relationship towards each other. So it's interesting because we only spoke about this on Monday night. Someone said, oh, we'd love to see a documentary on promoters. Well, here we are, a Netflix special. Eddie Hearn and Barry Hearn. I can't remember what the name of it was, but yeah, really looking forward to that. And a couple other quick things. Looks like we could get Deontay Wilder, Francis Ngannou. Now, you might think, well, why would you be excited about that? Well, I'm not excited about maybe the, what happens to the winner and all the big fights that could be made. But what I'm happy about is the fight itself. I think it'll just be a war. An absolute war, be fantastic. So keep a lookout for that one. And another one is Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Has been deported. So all you do-gooders out there, I'm sure you'll jump on the soapboxes. He has ties to the Sinaloa cartel and has been deported. So sorry to break the hearts out there, but he's gone back to Mexico. Should be more of it if you ask me. But anyway, I won't get too involved in it. We don't want to upset people out there. But having said that, have a good day, guys. It is a beautiful day here in the Macedon Ranges, and we'll catch you tomorrow.